Because they're lawyers, they're preachers, I know truckloads of them. They're in any profession, they're successful, they're college graduates, they're college dropouts. They've got GEDs, PhDs, and no Ds. So you cannot, the pattern is there's no pattern.
My name is Tahisha, I'm 35 years old. I've been living with AIDS for 10 years. My husband gave me this disease. He's a physician.
If I were a single man, single woman, I would really seek God for discernment. I really believe that one needs a supernatural, a God-given gift of discernment, because you cannot see it in the natural.
My name is Ida, and I've been living with HIV for 18 years. My husband infected me. I didn't go out looking for it. It came home, kissed me goodnight, and got into bed with me.
I met with Dr. Cheryl Rue, who runs a successful private practice in Beverly Hills, California. She also represents a growing segment of Black women that some label as intimidating.
Men at any time will say, oh, sure, she can make more money. But what they're not okay with is all the stuff that comes with making more money, meaning got a nice house, got a nice car, I take a vacation when I want, and all of that becomes uncomfortable for a lot of men.
My ex-wife is an attorney, and she made something like 4 or 5 times the amount of money that I did make. She was more domineering in the relationship and didn't know how to take a step back and allow me to be a man.
As professional women, in physicians in particular, because that's where I know the most about, we are in a male-dominated role. We are, all day long, we are the boss. We're highly respected as that in our roles as physicians. And sometimes it is hard for us to turn that off. And it's hard to turn it off in a relationship.
I think the reason why I also am not with somebody is because I'm very aggressive. And the aggression comes from being in an Ivy League institution. Since I am a producer and since I do run movie sets, which sometimes, one of the biggest ones, I ran 200 people, and you have to be aggressive because men are aggressive and these are men-dominated fields.
I don't think that I'm intimidating, but I have been told that I am because I am confident, self-assured most of the time, clear about what God wants me to do, and I walk in that freely and with authority.
What does it really mean to be a strong Black woman if every time that's said, a brother is intimidated?
I can go throughout the day and be in situations and have a Black man, and I laugh sometimes because they look right past you. I'm like, wow, I'm invisible. I've talked to other Black women who've said, these are stunning Black women who will say I was in this situation, and their brother never even saw me, but every other man saw her.
Is it that they stopped at some point, or was it always the case?
They stopped at some point. It's almost as though they stopped when I began to grow, when I grew. They stopped when I... You mean spiritually, emotionally? Spiritually, intellectually, physically, in every aspect. When I began to, fence, when I began to golf, when I began to travel, when I started buying properties, when I started my company, when I got my master's, they stopped. And the weird thing is that it's like a look, like they can see, it's not even a conversation.
I learned Hebrew, I learned other languages, I golf also. I went to Egypt and I studied, and it was really, really devastating that because I wanted to enhance my life, they became exes in my life. And I had to fight that battle all the time to the point where I stopped talking about me.
I pretended to be docile and passive, but I could only do that for so long because I'm passionate. I'm a wild woman. How do you tame the wind?
When I meet someone, they ask me what I do play it down a bit because if I start the list, it does seem overwhelming. So I start with one thing and I let them discover me along the way.
We've assembled here some of the finest women I've ever seen at one time together. There is an intimidation level on that. Let's just be real too. That some guys will look at you and immediately disqualify themselves. Teaching men how to be able to be comfortable with you.
And kindness helps.
And
Just a word.
grace is an awesome weapon.
Yeah, and with lots of my male cousins, when we sit and we dialogue, one of the things that they encounter most is the lack of kindness from sisters. We're very easy to bash. We're very easy to criticize. We're very easy to judge and tell them what they can't do. When I realize that black men were just looking past me, I say, oh, heck no, you have to get past me. I exist. And then it gave me a chance to stop and look at myself. So I had to check me, and in checking me, I had to evaluate some things and change some things in me.
I don't agree with the fact that we have to get rid of the attitude. I mean, that's an argument that has been basically blanketed on black women in general. I just don't think that's fair.
One of the things I get consistently is there's just something intimidating about the way I go about doing things. There is a graciousness that was lacking in me. And I'm just saying me. And my thing was, if you ain't playing at my level, you just ain't playing at my level.
Right.
There is a call on us on some level to go out of our way for some folks.
I think that we don't spend enough time being interested in them. When a man feels that you are interested, no matter what you do, you've got them.
I bring guys in, they'll tell me all the adjustments they're made to keep themselves from being dumped and done wrong and, you know, all these things. They'll say their thing. Bring the women in, they'll tell me all the adjustments that they've had. None of us are taking risks, but we're all claiming that we got all this faith.
And until we start really working through some of these issues collectively as men and women together, the next generation will be sitting here having the same conversation.
My generation is just so like, this is it. You know what I mean? We're sick of this. A lot of the black men here are playing sport. They're here as athletes. A lot of the guys that I know do not have they don't have, you know, father figures. They don't have men around them that are like, you know, you need to step up on your game, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. Because that is missing for a lot of guys my age. They can just kind of go around and do their own thing and nobody's gonna call them on it, it's not gonna be a big deal, you know? So when they meet a woman who's like, oh, you can't be acting a fool around me, you know, no, like that's not gonna fly. It's intimidating and they, you know, and they back up. And that's how a lot of women who act right, who, you know what I'm saying, who are doing those things that they're supposed to be doing end up alone.
A lot of young black men, that's why we're not marrying fast enough, because we don't have fathers in our lives. Realistic, that's just being honest. We don't know how to treat our opposites, basically.
Those in my generation, the baby boomers, the generation of the sexual 60s, you know, I'm amazed, I'm encouraged that so many in our generation, in my generation, are trying to counsel our children, for God's sake, don't do what I did. Mommy blew it, daddy blew it. You don't have to fall in that same hole. Because we know that when we made that decision, we paid for it. And we did walk away. And we did say, to heck with the things of God. We'll do it my way. And some of us are still paying.
Well, I define settling as allowing yourself to accept less than what God has for you.
I would absolutely marry a man who makes less money than me. I want to marry a man who makes money doing something that he enjoys, because it's important to me that I be with a guy who is satisfied in his life.
I would not consider marrying a man who makes considerably less money than me, no.
Educated women of other races, they seem to have a different mindset, with the mindset being that, yes, I'm making money, but still, it's good to have somebody else making money too. We can combine forces and we can conquer the world, as opposed to, I got my own money, I don't need a man, and that's what happens to a black woman. I got my own money, I don't need no man.
I don't need no man!
So guess what? You don't have a man. And then all of a sudden, menopause rolls around and, you know, you're single at 50.
That day when we turn 50, will we regret? Let's say we just choose never to marry at 50 years of age, when all, you know, options are just drained. Will we regret not making compromises?
I think the world system dupes us into believing that it's more about what we have than the integrity of a man, the character of a man, the honesty of a man, the faithfulness of a man, all those things that the Bible describes that a man should be. And a lot of women find that kind of man and he makes less money.
It's always the professional black man that says, "Oh, Chris, you're being too picky. Go out with the, the line chef at Taco Bell and be happy with that." But yet, and I'm just too close-minded. But yet they have these fabulous wives. I just want someone kind of like me that I have something in common with.
I definitely do not believe in settling.
I'm not settling. I built all this life for myself, and now I got to have somebody on my equal or above me. They got to match what. Okay, but you know what? In the end, you are settling. You're settling for being alone.
It depends on how you feel about being alone. I personally am a happy single person.
Acquire it all, achieve it all, and then look at yourself in the mirror and congratulate yourself by yourself. You have all these women now who've gotten all this stuff, and now they're looking for men that have acquired as much as they have, and that is not as plentiful a supply as all the women who've done all this accomplishing. Now, some women will say, "Oh, well, but look at how suppressed women were," and da 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 da. But, okay, so we're not suppressed. So are we happy yet?
According to the National Center for Health Statistics, a woman's educational level is the best predictor of how many children she will have. The higher the education, the lower the birth rate. It appears that the prime years for establishing a career overlap with the prime years for establishing a family.
The majority of us in the Association of Black Women Physicians are single and have no children. Medical students and the residents now are seeing 2 generations ahead of them of women who are single and not having children. Questions of adopting or in vitro fertilization comes up a lot.
I think that I wasn't really focused when I was younger on getting married, finding a mate. I was very focused on career, college, accomplishing things in life first, and just figured it would happen.
My girlfriend froze her eggs, went to sperm donors, and she said she always wanted the white picket fence and no husband.
This culture shift of women is where the liberation of women actually began. Did we necessarily need to have husbands? Did we necessarily need to have children early in college or right afterward? No, we didn't, because we could be successful and wonderful in our careers.
Back in the day, Michelle, women graduated and they got married and they had babies, they raised their families. Now, that's not a priority.
We bought into the lie. It's a huge lie. And the lie was formed to make us all miserable. We all have an enemy, and we need to deal with that. And that's the enemy of our souls. And that's Satan. And he's convinced us that the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of the life is the way to go. And so we, like Eve, we bite into the fruit, and we find out that it's not as sweet as we thought it would be.
I'm 40, and I need to see about trying to have a child. I got pregnant. Now, I didn't plan it. It happened. It wasn't with the guy who I was supposed to be with, but it happened. And unfortunately, I lost my child, but it's something that I still want.
I refuse to allow my body to dictate me making bad decisions. And a lot of times I think we do that, because our biological is ticking, we make these bad decisions and we end up being single mothers anyway.
Biologically, the prime time to have a baby is under the age of 30.
I'm at an age now where I've, dealt with the reality that I probably will not have children. What does that mean to me? It was something that I had to lay to rest and understand that in God's infinite wisdom and knowledge for Michelle's life, it's not the best thing to do. Does that mean I will be childless? No. I have lots of children available to love. I've invested my life into my nieces and my nephews. I will be their surrogate mother. Most of the people that struggle with their biological clock, I don't see them signing up to mentor children. I don't see them putting themselves up for fostering children or adopting children.
That's one thing for me I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. I can adopt, but I would love to experience what it is to carry a child, full-term, healthy. I want to experience that.